Well, the referendum's the morn, and by this point, I'm pretty sure you'll have heard a lot of arguments against independence.
Did he see the Olympics? Did he see the Olympics? National identity!
And for independence.
Mel Gibson!
With such compelling arguments on both sides, it becomes a bit difficult to know what the fuck's going on. So this video will provide you with 5 things you should remember when you're casting your vote. So let's get started with number 5. We all know that this happened, but why? Well, at the end of the 17th century, Scotland was an impoverished nation, after years of famine brought about by poor harvests. We were known to our wealthy European neighbours as the Scaffy Bastard. The Scottish Government's answer was to get in on the lucrative colonising game at a key position, Panama. Colonising here would allow Scotland to build a fast, safe and profitable overland trading route to the Pacific Ocean and make Scotland loads and loads of money! Shit-hot idea, until they got there and realised there was a massive mountain range across the entire fucking country. And although they brought thousands of men, nobody brought a Gandalf. It was the biggest fuck-up ever. Scotland was now bankrupt and our scarf rating increased from standard to Claude Greengrass. And England now had a golden opportunity. They would help, but it would come at a price, the price being Scotland's freedom. The protests and riots from the Scottish public wouldn't be a problem after they compensated the wealthy nobles and politicians that had lost money in Panama. Lo and behold, in 1707 the Treaty of Union was signed and Scotland's freedoms and assets were carved up like a Christmas turkey. But at least negotiations between a bankrupt Scotland and a wealthy England were fair for both sides.
Come on, squeal, squeal.
Nevertheless, if Scotland had remained independent, it's likely that the expanding empire would have eventually taken us by force. And with Scotland absolutely skint, and nearly 250 years to go before Mel Gibson, we would have been more fucked than a Vatican altar boy. Instead, our economy eventually soared through the use of British trade routes, and later, galloping our way across the world as part of the Great British Empire. After all, the Empire is what put the great, and great at killing and exploiting brown people. A tradition that's proudly continued to this day. So remember when you think about the Union, it was a lot less like this and a lot more like this. However, before we start going mental about English oppression, together we formed the greatest system of oppression that the world has ever seen, and both countries benefited greatly from it. And the Union has more to do with selfish Scottish greed than English oppression. But this time, it's not up to politicians to decide your fate, it's up to you. So who are you going to let inform the most important decision of your life? A lot of people look to politicians. Every single politician speaks absolute Kanye West to serve their interests, no yours. And this referendum is about the biggest interest of all, power. And that is far more important than you. Don't believe me? Let's ask them. Alistair Darling, is it true that the UK staying together serves your interests far more than the people of Scotland's, and the most compelling thing about your arguments is your eyebrows?
Yes, of course.
Alex Salmond, are you absolutely... See what I mean? With so much at stake at this referendum, trusting these guys with telling the truth is like trusting Gary Glitter with your laptop. So what about the newspapers? After all, they're just there to let us know what's happening. Problem is, these guys aren't public services, they're businesses. And like any business, they serve their owners' interests before anyone else. Owners like Rupert My Face has had 6 strokes Murdoch. He owns the Sun newspaper as part of his global media cartel, News Corporation. Every year before an election, Murdoch meets with the leader of the opposition and the current Prime Minister to talk terms. And the newspaper's support goes to the person who sucks his dick best. Murdoch's empire was instrumental in the installation of the Major government, the Blair government, and in 2007, the Salmond government. And so the Sun's readers is given information not based on what's in their best interests, but what's in the interest of one very ugly Australian American. While the Sun hasn't taken an explicit stance in this referendum, most newspapers have, whether it's explicitly or implicitly through the way they frame stories or the words that they use. And with only one Sunday newspaper supporting independence, and our television news owned by the exact same people, ask yourself the question, are you sure that your interests are the same as the interests of guys like this? Of course, some journalists and newspapers are better than others, whether they're yes or no. But some, well, let's just say if newspapers were doctors, the Daily Mail would be Harold Shipman. So if corporately owned media can't be trusted to give us an unbiased opinion, where do we turn? Well, surely the one institution that was set up to combat that very problem, the publicly funded BBC. Within their charter, we're guaranteed that they will take absolutely no political stance and provide us with only unbiased and fair information. So they'd be the best folk to go to, right?
Wrong.
I'll let you Google that in yourself, but just one of their crimes against the British public was their skewed reporting of a mass exodus of Scottish financial institutions down south. What RBS actually said was that they were moving their registered headquarters to London, a technical change, but that jobs, business and operations in Scotland would remain completely unaffected. They had to take these measures because of the uncertainty over the currency union. But think about it. Are they going to risk all of this, an amount which vastly outweighs any kind of potential risk from a currency union? Or are they going to make a decision which is in the best interests of both countries? Don't take my word for it, take Thunderbird 4's.
Do you think a currency union with Scotland would be in the interests of the United Kingdom?
Of course, if you have independence or separation, of course a currency union is logical. And do you know why? Because a currency union ultimately leads to an economic and then a political union, which is what we've got now.
But it isn't really the same union, is it, Alistair? Or you wouldn't be running around like headless chickens trying to maintain the one you've got.
Our Imperial Masters have arrived!
Whether you vote yes or no isn't for me to say. It's your decision. But just be aware, the information that you've received in the run-up to this referendum is tilted in favour of maintaining a system which serves the interests of the wealthy, not the interests of the public. Remember that when you're coming to cast your vote. Thanks for watching, and if you liked this video, please like, comment and subscribe to Roy Cropper's Eyebrow. It's awfully good, like!
Fight the power!